I first saw Courtesans on a Saturday afternoon. I was prowling the aisles of my usual game store on the hunt for new releases when its bluey-greeny box caught my eye like a hook snagging the jaw of an alligator gar. Immediately, two questions assailed me. Is it good? And why did they misspell it? Today, I have an answer to one of those questions for you, and that answer is yes. Yes, it is very good. As for the other question, well, the queen is throwing a feast, and you know what that means. Food. And stabbing? Lots and lots of stabbing, and not just of cake either, though there will probably be some of that. I mean, we all know how queens get around cake.
I think I might just put a knife in it.
You see, Her Majesty has decided to invite nobles from each of the most prosperous houses in the kingdom to sup with her, and they're hungry for more than just lamb chops. They're frothing to be in her good graces by dinner's end, and they are willing to spy on, slander, and skewer their noble peers to get there. During a game of Courtesans, you and up to 4 friends compete to align yourselves with noble families the queen likes and eschew the company of those she abhors. When the feast is over, you'll score points for any cards in front of you from houses that are in good standing, and lose points for any connected to houses foundering on the icy waters of the royal wrath. It'd be a simple proposition, but this process involves much more than asking the queen whether she fancies the hares or the toads today, then ordering a varlet from the toad house like a bucket of crawdads off Goldbelly. The queen, as it turns out, is a highly suggestible individual, and you'll be influencing her into favoring certain houses and poisoning her opinion of others while you are simultaneously recruiting nobles to your side and dumping nobles from unfavored houses in front of your friends. And if you're hearing that and thinking, well, that sounds messy, you are more right than a right-handed rights advocate writer turned Cartwright. Welcome to court. Things around here get messy at the drop of a plumed hat. Let me show you how it all works. At the start of your turn, you'll have 3 cards. Every card will denote the house it belongs to and whether it has any special effects. Nobles count as 2 cards of that house, assassins can bump off other cards when you play them, and guards can't be bumped off. Spies are played face down, with their loyalties kept a secret until the end of the game. During your turn, you'll distribute all 3 of your cards between 3 different zones. You'll place 1 in front of yourself, 1 in front of another player, and 1 at the queen's table. When you add a card to the queen's table, you'll place it either above the table or below it. Slipping it above the table means you're increasing that house's favor with the queen. Slapping it below the table means you're discrediting the family, chipping away at their relationship with the crown. After you have played all 3 of your cards, you'll draw 3 cards from the deck, and then it will be the next player's turn. Play will continue until the deck runs out and no one has any cards left in their hands, at which point it's time to score. Scoring Courtesans revolves around the queen's table. For each house, you'll assess the number of cards placed above the table and below it. If the number of cards placed above the table for that house exceeds the number placed below it, then every card you have from that house in front of you will be worth 1 point. If the opposite is true and the number of cards placed below the table exceeds the number placed above it, every card you have from that house will subtract a point from your score. And if the numbers are tied and the number of cards below the table matches the number of cards above it, then you won't lose any points, but you won't score any points for that house either. As a wise individual once said, he who controls the spies controls the universe. In Courtesans, that is certainly the case. Before evaluating house standings with the queen at the end of the game, all spies played to the feast table will be flipped face up, then assigned to their proper houses, joining them on the side of the table they were played to. This inevitably brings about a string of reversals that pop off like a bouquet of fireworks at the 11th hour, thrilling everyone who planted their spies carefully during the game and horrifying everyone who didn't, or those who planted their spies carefully and then forgot about it. That might happen often, but it won't be totally your fault when it does. The game immerses you in a blizzard of information from start to finish, and it can be challenging, if not downright overwhelming, to stay on top of it all. But that's also the fun of it. Every round unleashes a sopping avalanche of scurrilous gossip you'll absorb like a country aristocrat imbibing the contents of a Lady Whistledown pamphlet. You're about halfway through a game. It's the start of your turn. The carp are up, the butterflies have crashed since the last time you played, and you've got 2 carp and a toad assassin in hand. Maybe you play the assassin to make the carp flounder, or in front of Zeke to knock out his only carp, or maybe you'll even play it in front of yourself to make the butterfly friend you made 2 turns ago, who was worth a point then but is now worth a negative point, disappear. But you could also play a carp in front of yourself for an easy point, then play the other to buttress the carp's standing with the queen before dispatching your toad assassin to Teresa's estate, where they'll quietly cause her carp to croak. Or maybe your secret objective wants you to bring down the carp house, so you play 1 carp below the table, chuck your other to Herschel, who you hate, then play the assassin in front of yourself to remove the spy Herschel put in front of you earlier. All of these would be quality plays, and all of them will have severe repercussions. Every turn is like this. The social element in Courtesans is electric. Everything you do affects everyone else, so you're constantly running over everyone's toes like you were driving a riding lawnmower through a packed elevator and getting your toes run over in return. Gwen just passed me a stag, and she already has 2 stags in front of her. Is she trying to tell me that we should both invest in stags together? Or is she plotting the downfall of the stag house and she's hoping I'll go down with them? Should I pass her a stag card to see what she does with it? Or should I? Because that's giving her a free point. The drama, the intrigue. And if you're a person who hates what board gamers call take that mechanics, meaning that the idea of other players sticking their greasy, nasty fingers into your strategic pies while you play a game drives you crazy, Courtesans might actually still have something to offer you. Let me explain. When we think of take that mechanics in games, we generally think about negative player interactions. Things like making you discard a card or skip a turn or canceling an effect that you just tried to play. Things like that. In Courtesans, player interactions are not inherently negative. When someone puts a toad in front of me, that's an opportunity for me to score a point, an opportunity that I will try to exploit as much as I can before the end of the game. Player interaction does not shut you down in Courtesans the same way it does in other games that allow you to meddle in what other players are doing. It gives you opportunities to be clever, and I really like that. You might like it too. I really like just about everything in this game. In fact, the cards are lathered in beautiful art. You can knock out a 5-player game in about 30 minutes, or even less with fewer players. I personally prefer to play it with 3 to 5, by the way. The rules explanation is a breeze. It's super for bringing out with family and friends, and it is perfectly sized to take on vacation or camping or crocodile hunting or whatever else you do in your free time. I don't know. My only qualms with it are the wrinkles. This cloth has so many wrinkles on it when you first lay it out. It looks like an elephant's elbow. Mine has smoothed out with time, thank goodness, but initially, whew, it was a lot. And the title. The word Courtisan is the French term for courtiers, which, as I'm sure you know, were the hangers-on at court, the inner circle of the ruling elite, usually comprised of lesser nobles and such, which is great. Super cool. We love French. Pandasaurus has already come out and said that they wanted a title that would lend itself easily to the French edition. They wouldn't have to translate it, whatever. The issue is that the word courtisan is easily confused with the word courtesan. I'm sure you can see why. And courtesans were not courtiers. There's been a lot of academic discussion over what exactly courtesans were and what they did, but basically courtesans were highly educated, highly sophisticated women that spent a lot of time with wealthy men. And they would engage in sexual activities with these men, usually under some sort of fiscal arrangement, and they would do this sometimes but not always. As a matter of fact, you'd have some courtesans that would commit to one guy for a good long while, and their relationship would look, not unlike a relationship between a boyfriend and girlfriend today. Other courtesans would have multiple men support them in this way, and they did not have sex all the time. This was something that worked very differently for them as opposed to a prostitute. But when you talk to people about courtesans, they'll tell you that they were prostitutes for wealthy people. As a matter of fact, I think that's what comes up when you Google the term. That's not exactly true. That's a very reductive way of looking at what courtesans did. Anyway, courtesans were not prostitutes, not really. But a lot of people think that they are because that's kind of the commonly accepted way of looking at them. So at the moment, when a person walks down an aisle in a board game store and they see courtesan written on a board game box, they're gonna think, wealthy prostitutes, huh? And that is not what this game is at all. It's about being a courtier in a court and trying to woo the queen. It's not about courtesans. And I get what Pandasaurus was trying to do. I understand the word courtier was already used for a board game way back when. They probably didn't want their game to get confused with that one, but gosh, they could have saved themselves a lot of trouble if they had just, put the article in front of the French word to indicate that it's French. What do I know? If you would like to investigate that fascinating topic a little further, I have linked a couple of articles just on JSTOR in the description of the video. Feel free to check those out to deepen your knowledge of courtesans in Renaissance Italy. As for the card game Courtisans, it's just great. It's snappier than a snapping turtle. If you're looking for something to spice up your summer, this is a good option. Thank you so much for joining me in this review. If you liked it, please consider subscribing to the channel or liking the video or even watching another one of our videos. We've done reviews for quite a few games at this point. We've got one for Darwin's Journey. We talked about the big Dune game with all the miniatures. We talked about Dune Imperium Uprising, Sky Team, plenty of other board game titles. So please, if you have the time, if you could check out one of those videos, that would be awesome. It would help out the channel a lot. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and as always, until we meet again, I hope that your days are full of great games played with the best of company. Bye.